Welcome to episode 4 of Kerbal Space Program First Contract. Now, if you've watched the previous episode, you know that we have been doing some very basic contracts just to build up our basic skills and our basic pile of funds and a little bit of science. But I reckon we've now got enough science that we can tackle this particular contract to get a stable orbit around Kerbin. I mean, we've been managing to get way above Kerbin's atmosphere, so actually getting an orbit shouldn't prove too much more difficult. Now, in my other KSP series, we've been looking at the mod Kerbal Engineer, so let's go and try that over in the vehicle assembly building and see if we can get a better rocket than we've had previously and actually get an orbit. Okay, so here we are back in the VAB, so let's start constructing with a basic command pod. Make sure everyone's safe by plopping on a parachute. Now, from the science menu, we know we have these new mod items now, the Kerbal Engineering items, so let's pick off the basic flight and engineering system and stick that on there and get ourselves our basic engineer redux display, so we're all ready to build our better rocket. Now, while we're at this level of the rocket, let's start packing on the science. So let's get the science junior on, and just to keep everything balanced, let's put 2 goo containers on. Now, this is all going to be returned to Kerbin, so let's make sure we have some of these radial mount parachutes as well. We'll put 2 of those on, and that will ensure that we have enough parachute capacity to land the additional weight that we have here. So there's our 3 parachutes in our top stage, and next I think we need a decoupler. Right, now, so that's the stage that's been going into space. Now we need the stage for orbit. Now, we've not got a great deal of parts, but let's build ourselves a rocket similar to the last one with a few extra tanks of fuel and see what we need to get into orbit. Now, we'll use the vectoring engine because we need to be able to steer this darn thing, and that gives us 4,654 meters per second of delta V, and we know we need just over 4,500, so let's stick on an extra tank. Gets us to 3,937 with just 1.21 thrust to weight ratio. Now, we know that's just enough to get us off the pad, but I think we are going to have to get ourselves some solid rocket boosters just to give us a bit of a hand getting off the pad. So we'll go with a similar design that we've had before, and we'll just make sure our stages are set as we've had them previously. So we've got plenty of thrust to weight ratio to get us off the platform. That's more than enough, and we've still got our 1.21 thrust to weight ratio once we're up off the platform, which isn't great, but will do. But we've certainly got plenty of delta V. We need 4,550, so we've certainly got enough. And of course, if we take into account the fact that some of that will be in a vacuum, we should have a goodly bit left over. Now, I don't think we have anything else we need. Transmitters, well, we're bringing all this stuff back, so we don't need to transmit any of our science. Don't need any batteries because we're not going to be transmitting anything. We've got parachutes, that's all okay. We've got our staging set up correctly, so I think we will be alright. The only problem we might run into is a bit of stability, so let's get our winglets on, bit of stability in there, and also balancing this whole thing on the engine. Well, we've done it before, so we'll do it again. So let's title our craft Orbiter 1. Orbiter 1? Cool. Save it, and let's go out to the launch pad and see if we can get this thing into a stable orbit. Right, well, here we are on the launch pad. We have our flight engineer details here because we're going to need to see our apoapsis height. We've got to get over 70 in order to get a stable orbit. It's a night launch. We've not done one of those before, so I hope you can see everything clearly. We'll certainly see the explosions if there are any. So let's just double check our staging is all good. I think so. Let's put the T key on. Let's throttle up so we're ready to fire our liquid stage when the time comes. And let's launch. Now we're going to go straight up until we're at about 10 kilometers. And hopefully we won't drift off center too far. Of course, if we drift off center, we'll have an inclined orbit. And we'll be wasting fuel getting back on track. Right, well now we have a vectoring engine. We can more effectively steer our craft. So just using the WASD keys to get ourselves moving a little more vertically. Given how tall this thing is, it's a little bit hard to keep on track. But we're not too bad, so we should be okay. The prograde marker is moving back towards the vertical. But as soon as 10k comes, we're going to be moving it over here, so we're not too bad, we're doing okay. Coming up to 8.5 kilometers. And let's just start to ease over towards the east, towards 45 degrees, which a little confusingly is right next to the 90 on this nav ball. So there we go. Hopefully the prograde marker will match up. There we go. Excellent. Now as we ascend, we can use the flight engineer to check our apoapsis, and that's 16 kilometers so far. We've got a little bit of an inclination to our orbit, but not too much. It's coming back now. And we can see exactly how much delta V we have left. We have 1 minute 46 worth of delta V, 2,700 and a bit meters per second of delta V. And I think we are pretty stable there. Jeb, I think, is enjoying his experience. Now if we go to the orbit map, we can see our apoapsis growing quite handsomely. Our orbit would, at this point, still take us down into the ground, but we'll fix that later when we do a circularization burn. Now you can compare the apoapsis with the mark on the map and you'll see they are indeed the same. So we'll switch back to our night view. There we go. Our missile up into the sky. So I think we're doing okay. We're at 50 kilometers. Get ready to kill the thrust when this gets to, let's say, 75, just to be absolutely sure. There we go. Now at the moment we're still in the atmosphere, so a little bit of drag is going to be holding us back, but we should still stay above 75. Now double click on Kerbin, centers us on Kerbin, stops our camera moving. Let's add a maneuver, and then let's pull on the prograde marker to extend our orbit out. We want to extend it until we see the periaps form. There it is. And when they swap round like that, we know they're about even. and that's good enough. A little bit too much, but that doesn't matter. We know we need 1075, and look at that. We've got 1400 meters per second. We've got plenty of delta V left. Now we've got a 40-second burn, so let's move over and point in the right direction. Just use the A and the D keys to do that. And we will start burning on the 20, because we need to burn half either side of the maneuver node. So we've got 20 seconds to go before we start burning. We'll start burning a smidgen early because we've got to accelerate, increase our thrust, and that's not instantaneous. So we'll start burning, let's say, on 21. There we go. Power up. And there goes the delta V. And we can see our orbit extending as we do. Down it comes. Just keep on the blue marker. And we'll kill the thrust. Now, there we go. Excellent. So we can now press this little red X here to remove the maneuver node and check on our orbit. A little bit, tiny bit off. We didn't stop quite quickly enough, but it's close enough. And if we check our notifications, we'll find that we now have a stable orbit. Excellent. Brilliant. So that's the contract done. So we know we have some delta V left over to get back down, so I think we can click the cur button here to remove that. And while we're here, we can get some science. Although, in the dark, it's probably not very good for you to see. So let's tap the period key and pop round the other side of the planet so we can see what we're doing. Here comes sunrise. I said here comes sunrise. Speed up a little bit. There we go. Marvellous. Lovely graphics. Hey Jeb, yeah, we can see you Jeb, you're doing well. So let's tap period again and just accelerate into full sunshine. There we go. Right, you can see what we're doing now. So let's start off with a crew report. Are we there yet? Well, yes we are, because we've been here before. So let's discard that experiment. Now we can do an EVA. Now this is the tricky part. I don't want him to I don't want him to fly away. So hang on, Jeb, because my jetpack skills are not great. So let's do the EVA report. We get 8 science for that. So we'll pick up that science and we will press F to board again. Whew, you don't know how stressful that really was. Let's do a observe mystery goo. So we get 2.3 science for that. So we've probably had a mystery goo canister in space near Kerbin before, but we'll take that. That's fine. But I don't think we've had a science junior here. So let's observe that. 25 science. See a rubber duck floating out of the material bay. Yes, Jeb. Now we know where it went. So we will keep that. Now there's not much point in doing another mystery goo because we've been here at least twice before, so not much point in repeating that exercise. So I think, since we can't exactly take a surface sample from up here, we're done. So let's go back to the orbit map and let's decide where we'd like to land. Now, if we could see it, somewhere in here would be KSP. KSC even. Now, there is a little trick which I failed to do, which is you can leave a craft or a flag just outside the KSC for exactly this sort of problem, because that will ensure that you can see the KSC, because you'll see the little flag on the ground even on the dark side. But let's assume it's somewhere in here. Let's just set up a new maneuver. Now let's just double check how much. We have 326 to play with, so we don't actually have that much. Doesn't matter, the engines will simply cut out. So, I don't know, somewhere in there. Do we want to land on the dark side? Probably not. So let's land, at least land on the light side. We won't get as much back in funds recovered if we land on the light side as we see it here, a long way from KSC. But heck, at least we get to see what we're doing. So we have a 9-second burn in 1 minute and 12 seconds time. So let's just get ourselves sorted out. Let's turn the craft using the A key and point it roughly at this blue target. Now of course technically all we need to do to deorbit is point at the retrograde marker, but we've chosen a maneuver node at a very particular point on the orbit, so they don't quite match up. But you'll see as we approach the maneuver node they start to line up, because all we're doing is deorbiting, and that just requires us to slow down. So we're now more or less lined up. We're going to be firing basically until all our fuel runs out. So we fire at about 5 seconds or so. Doesn't actually matter, we're just landing, but I'm a stickler for maneuver nodes. So let's do this one as we intend to do the rest. So on 5. And there we go. Good bit of G-force there. Poor old Jeb squashed in his seat. Done. So we were 27 delta V short, but it doesn't matter, we're coming down. Now aerodynamic drag will slow us down further, so we'll probably land somewhere here. We won't actually land there. So let's go back to Jeb and see how he does. Now we won't drop back into the atmosphere until a smidgen under, it's the word for the day, smidgen, a smidgen under 70 kilometers. So we've got a little way to go with the soothing space music. And then hopefully, of course, we won't just splat into the ground. Now we don't need our engineer mod anymore, so we'll switch that off and we'll just enjoy the scenery as we come back down. So provided we're successful, we'll complete our contract, get our science, and be able to pop over to the science centre and maybe unlock another section, get a few more parts. So we're coming up on 70 kilometres. Very large continent this. Maybe I'll have to visit the ski resort at some point. Don't think I've actually ever landed on this continent, or certainly not near these snow-covered mountains anyway. And if we do land successfully, which we're hoping to, we can get another surface sample. So so we'll try that. Okay, well we're now inside the atmosphere. The atmosphere gauge is just starting to register a little pressure, And what we'll do is we'll switch the T key off and just let the atmosphere point us in the direction of drag, which is going to be somewhere near the retrograde marker, but it does all depend on KSP's physics. You see the atmosphere starting to get a bit thicker. Should start to see some atmospheric effects at around 30 kilometers. I'm sure it's not this peaceful when a real rocket comes thundering in at 2 kilometers a second from orbit. But at least it is for us, far less stressful. These games are supposed to be enjoyed, of course. Jeb's enjoying himself. This is Jeb's view. This is the IVA view. Still gets to see outer space. Doesn't get to see much else, but there are some useful things you can see inside the cockpit. You can do a cockpit only landing. So you've obviously got the nav ball. You've got a radar altimeter and an absolute altimeter, I think it is, and velocity. So you've got most things there that you could want, and I know that Scott Manley has done a hard mode landing on, I think it's Minmus or the Mun, using just IVA views. So that's one challenge I won't be trying, but there we go. So there we are. Drag is starting to pull us down. No longer landing out here somewhere. And there is the atmospheric effects slowing us down quite dramatically. I don't really want to go nose down. So let's see if we can't get ourselves orientated correctly. Pressing down on the D key just to bring the tail down and the nose up, but it's not having it. Atmospheric drag, it's got its way with us. So I think I'll just jettison the fuel now. That will then crash to the surface. Funds are wasting. There it goes. Now that the parachutes are up, so I think we should have plenty of parachutes to slow us down, even with the extra weight of the equipment that we're carrying. Rather pleasant surroundings. I'm not exactly sure what biome we're in, but when we take a surface sample, we can probably use our spare mystery goo canister as well. So that'll be quite handy. There goes the fuel, soon to explode. Bang. Looks like something survived. Orbital debris. Debris? Debris. Have to clean that up. And there we go. So we're about 150 meters above sea level, because it's sea level, or at least when you're landing above sea level, parachutes open at 500 meters. So we were about 650, so we're about 150 meters above sea level down here. Don't know what that'll be. Probably not the engine. Still, we'll recover that later. Right. Let's speed up time to save us the next 400 meters. Looks like a golf course. Huh. Wonder if Kerbals play golf. Well, we're getting pretty close now. There's our shadow. Coming in for quite a soft landing at 4.4 meters per second. Hopefully we won't lose any of the science. Doink. Oh! Oh dear. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Let's find out if we can do a crew report from this location. Here we go. Kerbin's grasslands. Oh, okay. 1.5 science. Okay, well, we'll have that. Let's do a goo canister observation. 3 science. Okay, well, we'll save that as well. And I think we've... well, Jeb has definitely been out on the grasslands, so he's definitely done a crew report. So let's recover the vessel and just have a look at our mission summary. Right, so here we are. We've got our crew reports, EVA reports above Kerbin's water. So although we were way up in space, that counts as being over Kerbin's water. So that's why we didn't get very much, but we did get 25 from the materials study, so that's almost 50 science earned. We recovered, well, all of the capsule related equipment, including all the science equipment, so that was good. But it was a long way away from KSC, so we only got 28.9% of its possible value, so we're at total funds of 75,000. And good old Jeb is back and available for new missions. So let's pop into the Science Centre. We've got 105 science to spend and have a look at these items. So we can get 2 of them because they're all worth 45, so we can get 2 of these. Now I wouldn't mind struts, stabilizers and the large radial decoupler, so we'll definitely have that one. And then we have to decide whether we're getting this one or this one. Now this provides bigger tanks and a radial engine, but this one not only provides us with Mech Jeb, which we're going to try and avoid using, but we do get the movable, the active winglet, which is good. We get an airplane capsule, we get a probe body. Probe body dead handy. We'll get a probe body, and we also get the inline reaction wheel, which makes moving big ships, particularly the long thin ones we've just been using, really easy. So definitely going to get that one. So the next 45 points, we just by rule we're going to spend here. So we need another 30 science points and we'll spend them here, and that will then, as part of this game, unlock this layer of technology. So with that in mind, I'd like to thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye bye.